Chapter 41. Talking Terms. Let's talk terms. The second Fury heard those words, his good mood was instantly ruined. When Tony saw this reaction, he smirked evilly in Fury's direction. He didn't like Fury very much. They seemed to bump heads from the moment they met. Fury seemed to be a very controlling and secretive man, and this made Tony feel as though Fury was constantly scheming something. "What do you have in mind?" Fury asked in annoyance, though he hid it well. "Well, let's go to a more comfortable room. We can't talk business amongst the dead after all," Peter says, and Fury takes them to a conference room with a big table surrounded by rolling chairs. The second they enter the room, Peter takes out his ghost phone and flips a tiny switch on the side of it. Instantly, any listening devices or cameras in the room were made useless. At least until Peter's ghost phone was out of range or the switch was flipped again. "This is more like it," Peter mutters as he puts his phone away and takes a seat alongside Tony. Fury looked annoyed and rolled his single eye as he took a seat as well. "What are your terms?" Fury asks, ignoring the smug look Tony was giving him. Seeing as there aren't any other superpowered individuals here, that must mean Tony and I would be the first to join, correct? "Yes. I have a couple of agents that I want to be involved, as well as an enhanced individual who is currently create an image, American comic style art. Scene 1. Medium shot, eye level, Spider-Man in Tokyo streets at night, holding a paper handed by a hand ninja. Ninjas in dark red garb disappearing into shadows behind him. Tense but curious expression on Spider-Man's face, dim street lighting, cinematic shadows. Scene 2. Close-up, eye, Spider-Man examining the paper with an address written. Focus on hand and paper, slight glow from street lights, curiosity and anticipation in posture. Scene 3. Interior, med shot, traditional Japanese tea house. Subtle hand clan handprint symbol on wall. Minimal workers in background. Mysterious man sitting alone at table. Casually drinking tea, calm yet intimidating presence. Spider-Man entering cautiously, contrast between ordinary tea house and ominous vibe, 16:9 ratio. Create a cinematic comic style scene. Scene 1. Interior. Peter standing in the destroyed Japanese mansion, summoning a glowing portal on the floor. Nobu and Murakami unconscious, debris around. Dramatic lighting, Spider-Man confident and imposing. Scene 2. Action. Nobu and Murakami falling into the swirling mirror dimension portal, distorted reflective surfaces, dynamic motion blur, tension and surreal atmosphere, vibrant colors. Scene 3. Interior. Spider-Man returning home through another portal, night setting, city lights visible, calm after battle, hint of mirror dimension in the background, 16:9 ratio. That can be worked into the contract, Fury says after some thought. Who would be upholding this portion of the contract? Tony jumps into the conversation. As Coulson said, S.H.I.E.L.D. is separate from any government body. We would need the President or the Supreme Court to agree to this. Hearing this, Fury's face scrunched in contemplation. Tony just made this a lot more complicated. I would have to speak to the powers that be before promising anything like that, but we can probably get it done. Fury nods, using the same wording as Peter. He would need to speak to the World Security Council about this, which would be a hassle as they've all but scrapped the Avengers initiative plan long ago. Let's talk about training. I don't expect most people who join to know how to fight or have control over their powers. It took me a bit to get my powers under control, so I understand this sort of thing. Future members would have to be put through some training and tests before being allowed to go on missions. Peter explains, getting nods of agreement all around. The agents I want on the team can be instructors to the new members. Other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents can assist them when needed as well. Fury agrees easily. Good, let's move on to missions, Peter thought. When they arrived at the UN building, Peter sent a good morning text with a heart to MJ, explaining that he was in Japan still. Peter made Ned, MJ, and May their own ghost phones, so they could talk and text about sensitive information without S.H.I.E.L.D. or Hydra snooping. Put his phone away. Peter followed the president and his many secret servicemen inside. After sitting through some boring nonsense, Charles rolled his way up to the podium on the stage yet again, ready to finish his presentation from yesterday. Peter could see Storm at the side of the stage, accompanying the professor once again. As he parked next to the podium and grabbed the microphone, Charles tried to speak, but suddenly the building began to shake and creak. What's happening? Is this an earthquake? The worldwide representatives were surprised and scared as some ducked under their desks. Peter looked toward a certain wall, where he could sense someone floating in the air outside of the building. Is it? Peter had a good idea of who was behind the wall. Professor X is here after all. His nemesis wouldn't be too far behind, would he? Instantly, Peter took his phone out of his pocket and opened a mini portal under the desk, throwing it inside stealthily. Every portion of Peter's suit is metal-free, so the only object on his person that could be used against him is his cell phone. Once his ghost phone was sent to his bedroom, Peter closed the portal and sat back, casually watching the show that would unfold. Fury asks, not hating the idea as it would circumvent the World Security Council. Just like S.H.I.E.L.D., the Avengers would be beyond the province, powers, or proper sphere of any government. We would be able to go anywhere we want and help anyone we please. And the liability wouldn't be an issue anymore, as we would be put in power by the US government and any other country that wishes to back them as well. Peter answers Tony's question first before turning to Fury, who would need to agree for this to happen. My bosses would never agree to this, so your next best bet would be the president. Once President Obama is involved, you can use his connections to get the United Nations on board as well. After that, you would be set. Fury says, not liking the plan, as he would be losing some power in this deal, but he knew that this may be the only way to truly get his long-time plan operating without any interference. You're okay with this? It sounds like your bosses won't be pleased. Tony asked confusedly. I've been trying to get the Avengers initiative off the ground for a very long time. If this is the way it has to be for the world to have the protection it needs, then I'm on board for the ride. Fury says, far more understanding than either of them thought he would be. Technically, he has Phase 2 to fall back on, which is a plan developed by S.H.I.E.L.D. to develop weapons using the power of the Tesseract. Though Fury believes in Phase 1 Avengers initiative far more. Don't be too down about it though. We'll still need S.H.I.E.L.D.'s assistance. Training and information are what you would offer us still, so we would still be working together. I have no problem taking in the 3 people that you plan to have involved as well. Peter says, knowing S.H.I.E.L.D. would still be involved either way. We would also need to set people in charge. Someone has to run the whole operation, Tony says, dread clear in his voice. The room goes silent as everyone thinks of how it would even work. This time, Fury is the first to speak up. As someone who runs his own organization, I can give you some advice. Fury offers. Sure, go ahead. Peter gestured for him to continue. You could form a council, which would deal with the upper-level management. That council can appoint a director, like myself, who would run the organization as a whole. Fury explains. Is that how S.H.I.E.L.D. is run? Tony asks. I cannot confirm or deny, Fury says with a shake of his head. So, it is, huh? Tony mutters, reading between the lines. Who would be on our council? Peter asks. Us 3 would make a good start, Fury says, trying to get his foot in the door. Us? Tony asks with an upturned eyebrow. Yes, us. Fury repeats with a serious nod. The Avengers initiative was my plan, to begin with. I've been working on it for 15 years of my life, compiling information on every enhanced individual I could find. I refuse to be left out. Also, with my involvement, S.H.I.E.L.D. as a whole would be more inclined to agree with all of this. Tony started arguing with Fury, but Peter zones out as he began to think about this whole situation. Fury is a trustable person. The problem with him is his allegiance to a corrupt organization. He may have a hard, angry outer shell, But the man does what he does to keep the world safe, which Peter respected. "Stop!" Peter yells as he came to decision. Instantly, Tony and Fury stopped arguing and turned toward Peter. "We haven't even gotten the ball rolling on any of this. Right now, this is all just an idea. Let's see if we can get the president to agree before we start arguing about the council positions." Chapter 42, El Presidente. Let's see if we can get the president to agree before we start arguing about the council positions, Peter says, calming the room down. Fury is someone trustable, but he doesn't currently know about the cancer that has taken hold of his organization. Peter would have to warn him, somehow, or just straight out reveal the existence of Hydra, though he would need to get evidence to prove his claims first. Without this, there's no way Peter would ever allow Fury to hold any position in the Avengers Council. "It's a bit late for that," Tony replies, looking at his watch. "It's already far past midnight. Is the president currently at the White House?" Peter turned to Fury and asked. "Yes, he'll be leaving the country in a week though. There's a summit in Japan," Fury says, somehow knowing the president's schedule by heart. "Good. I'll pick you two up tomorrow around lunch and portal us to the White House," Peter says nonchalantly as he stands from his seat. "Shouldn't we schedule a meeting?" Tony says with Fury nodding in agreement. "I'll send a message to his Twitter account. That should be enough," Peter says with a shrug as he turns to Fury. "Seeing as your bosses won't like this, I think you should keep our current plans between us and only us." "I agree. I'll have the security footage of this room destroyed," Fury says, knowing that the World Security Council could easily access it. "Don't worry about that," Peter says as he shows his phone. "I blocked all of that when we came in." "Good work, Webhead," Tony says, patting Peter on the shoulder. "Like I've said multiple times," Peter says, making eye contact with Fury, "I don't trust S.H.I.E.L.D. as a whole. I'm sure many of you are kind-hearted and want nothing but to protect the world, but not everyone has good intentions." Peter was trying to drop a hint to the guy, and Fury seemed to pick it up fairly easily. "Is there something that I should know?" Fury asks with a raised eyebrow. "No, but just be careful what you allow anyone to know about. Even the highest level people can always turn on you. The only people I have even the smallest amount of trust for in S.H.I.E.L.D. are Natasha, Coulson, and you being the lowest on that list," Peter explains. "All right, I'll keep our plans quiet for as long as I can." Fury agrees, finding a sort of kindred spirit in Peter. "Sounds like we're done here," Tony says as he stands up. "Take me home, Webhead. Today has been a long day and tomorrow is looking to be the same." Nodding to him, Peter opens a portal to Tony's house, and they both leave a contemplating Nick Fury behind. He could tell Peter knew something about S.H.I.E.L.D. that he wasn't saying. The question was, what does he know? After bidding Tony farewell, Peter found a good place to portal home and found MJ, Ned, and May waiting for him as if some sort of intervention was about to take place. "What?" Peter asked as he switched to his normal clothes in a split second. "You take down a giant robot with your new friend Iron Man and expect us not to show up?" MJ says as news coverage showing the many videos of the fight was playing on the TV. "Oh, yeah," Peter mutters, forgetting that even happened. "Sorry, I just got out of a meeting with your dad and forgot." "What? Why?" MJ asks as Ned and May both go quiet and listen curiously. Peter explains everything that happened, shocking everyone in the room. They learned about everything from the Ironmonger conflict to the alien bodies he saw. "So, you're meeting the president tomorrow?" May says in awe and excitement. She voted for Obama and was a supporter of the man, so the situation turned into something similar to the Oprah incident. "Yeah, so I have to get to bed," Peter says as he walks over and pulls MJ into his arms. "It's already late. Do you want to spend the night?" Ned looked away, shielding his innocent virgin eyes. May, on the other hand, was watching intently as if a scene from one of her Korean dramas was playing out before her. I. MJ stuttered before noticing a teasing smirk on Peter's face. She instantly knew he was messing with her. Matching his smirk with one of her own, MJ swiftly lifts her knee toward Peter's nether regions. Peter's grin instantly disappears as his spider senses go off. "Be careful," Peter says as he easily stops her knee with his hand. "How will we make babies if you damage the family jewels like that?" "Oh, I want at least 2 grandchildren." May gave her 2 cents. "We're not having any children," MJ snapped, her embarrassment clear to everyone in the room. "Not yet," May added. When MJ and Ned left, Peter went to his room and sent a message to the president's official Twitter account, stating that he would arrive with 2 guests around lunchtime tomorrow. Thankfully, he had no school tomorrow. Similar to what happened when May found out about his Twitter account, Peter was woken up the next morning by his excited aunt. He slept past his usual time, and she wanted him to be on time for his meeting with the president. She even started looking through his closet for some nice clothes, forgetting that Peter would be wearing his spider suit. After getting away from his far too excited aunt, Peter portaled over to Tony's house, where he found Fury waiting patiently in the living room with the 2 files from yesterday in hand. "Is Tony ready?" Peter asked. "Mr. Stark is currently waking up," Jarvis answers through the speakers. Fury seemed annoyed with Tony, meaning the guy was probably asleep when he got here. After waiting for a good 20 minutes, Tony finally arrived, dressed in a very expensive-looking suit. Peter decided to not give Fury and Tony time to argue, as he could feel the tension in the room, and opened a portal straight to the Oval Office. He only hoped Barack wasn't pulling a Clinton and using his office for anything sexual. Stepping through the portal, Peter found Barack Obama sitting behind his desk, going over some paperwork whilst on the phone with some foreign dignitary. "Yes, and if they move across your country's border, you will have our assistance, but that hasn't happened yet." The very recognizable voice of the president fills the office. Hearing something in the room, the president looks up from his desk and sees Spider-Man, Tony Stark, and the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. enter his office through some sort of circular hole in space. "I'm gonna have to call you back," he says and hangs up the phone as the portal closes behind his guests. "Spider-Man? Stark? Why are you here?" As soon as Barack asks this, 15 Secret Service agents rush into the room with pistols drawn. Seeing who the intruders were, they freeze for a moment, not knowing how to handle the situation. "Did you not see my DM?" Peter asks as he completely ignores the men with guns and takes a seat in one of the chairs across from the president. Confusingly taking out his phone, Obama opens up Twitter and sees a message from Spider-Man. "You do understand that you can't just send me a message on Twitter and come here, right?" Obama says incredulously. "Well, we need to speak. Can you ask the goons to leave?" Peter shrugs as he looks over at the confused Secret Service agents. "No offense." Thinking it over for a moment, the president motions for them to leave, and they reluctantly and confusingly do so. "Good. 1 sec," Peter says, as he grabs his phone and switches on the anti-surveillance switch. "Okay, now our conversation will remain private." "What?" the president asks in confusion. "He made any cameras and listening devices useless," Tony says as he takes a seat beside Peter. "Director Fury, can you please explain what's going on?" He asks the only one in the room he knows. "We need your help," Fury says as he walks up and hands over the Avengers Initiative file. Looking over the file, the president was pleasantly surprised by the foresight of S.H.I.E.L.D. It seems as if they knew superpowered individuals would exist years before Spider-Man and Iron Man made their debuts. "This looks like a good plan. Though I don't know how I can help," he asks, placing down the file. "Tony and Spider-Man have given their input, which has changed the plan slightly," Fury says, gesturing for Peter to speak as he was the one to come up with all of this. "We would like to make the Avengers an organization similar to S.H.I.E.L.D. We worry about liability and..." Peter goes on to explain everything they spoke of on the night before. "I see," Obama mutters after hearing everything. "We like the idea of the Avengers, but the execution needs more thought and planning above just bringing some superpowered individuals together to take care of any big threats." Tony adds his thoughts, throwing in a small jab at Fury's plan. Why can't you just join SHIELD? After all, they're the type of organization you're trying to build, he asks. I don't know or trust the people running SHIELD. If I'm going to do this, it's going to be my way, Peter states, getting a nod from Tony. Thinking about what he heard, Obama found that he agreed with what Peter said. He always got an odd feeling from Alexander Pierce, who is a member of the World Security Council. Not to mention the fact that SHIELD hides a lot from even him, which has irked every president since SHIELD was made. Okay. The president nods a bit reluctantly. This will take some work to get off the ground, but it'll be worth it. So, you're on board? Tony asks as a victorious smirk begins to form on his lips. Tony still didn't trust the government, but he was starting to get excited about everything coming together. Yeah, but at least one of you needs to accompany me to Japan next week. We need to explain all of this to some of our allies and get them on board as well. Once we have a few of the more powerful UN countries with us, everything else will fall into place. Chapter 43, AI and Fame. After having a long conversation with the president, Peter returned home to finally spend some time with his friends and family. He has been spending all of his spare time with Tony lately, which was fine, but Peter missed his aunt, girlfriend, and best friend. Involving the president in their plan was a good idea. He listed the countries in the UN that need to be on board for this to happen. United States, China, Russia, Germany, United Kingdom, Japan, France, South Korea, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates. These countries are the most powerful in the United Nations, with at least 5 of them joining together, not including the United States. The Avengers organization would be a real thing. Luckily, the UN was holding a summit in Japan a week from now, so their opportunity would come soon. This is a much more complicated way to bring the Avengers into existence, but it would all be worth it. In order to prosper long-term and avoid the problems that occurred in the movies, the Avengers need to be more than what they were originally supposed to be. It especially needed to be separated from the time bomb that is SHIELD. Speaking of SHIELD, maybe the Avengers can take in its remnants once Hydra has been expunged? Now that Peter thought of it, absorbing SHIELD is a good long-term goal, though this depends on how everything pans out. Upon returning to his life in Queens, New York, Peter found that Parker Games was starting to roll in money, and even the news was pick up on the company's success. The game has a player base of 26 million and was making around $70 million a month, which was crazy to him. With all of this money coming in, Peter had made contact her business lawyer friend again and asked for a recommendation on a good accountant to handle it for them. Peter was far too busy, and May is never going to quit her job as a nurse, so they needed someone capable to manage the company's money and file the taxes on time. As for the news, they started covering the new and popular game Candy Crush. It didn't take long for them to find the people behind Parker Games, as it's public information. It started with the local news putting an article in the newspaper and online about Peter Parker, the majority owner and creator of Parker Games, the company behind the popular game, Candy Crush. After that, the floodgates opened, and every news station, paper, and magazine was running stories about Candy Crush and its prodigious creator. While Peter was finding this out from Ned, who was excitedly texting him articles and news clips, a news van pulled up outside, and a reporter buzzed into his apartment. Asterisk bzz bzz asterisk. Walking over to the intercom, Peter held down the button and spoke. "Hello?" he asks. "Hi, this is Kate Summers from Channel 4 News. Is this Peter Parker?" she asks, and after a short conversation other the intercom, Peter goes downstairs to be interviewed by the woman. Peter didn't want to bring the news people upstairs, as May had already proven that she can't keep her mouth shut in the apartment. The interview consisted of random questions about his game development, studies in school, and Parker Games. It wasn't mainstream news, so the interview didn't last longer than about 15 minutes. After they got what they came for, the news crew swiftly packed up and left for the next story. Peter didn't really care about being famous as Peter Parker, so he didn't want to do the interview, but the publicity for the game was worth it. Candy Crush has risen to a player base of 25 million without any advertising whatsoever. With the current coverage of the game, Peter wouldn't be surprised if that player base doubled with just the news help. The interview was played on the news the very next day, but Peter didn't really care anymore. By this point, he was working on creating his own Jarvis. It was the weekend, so thankfully, Peter didn't have school to worry about. Though he knew that when Monday came along, he would be swarmed by teenagers asking about Candy Crush. Maybe I should have hidden my involvement in Parker games, Peter thought, regretting his decision already. While Peter was thinking this, he was on his ghost laptop, hacking into universities and other institutions, looking for their research data on artificial intelligence. Peter could start from scratch using his skills and everything he knows about Jarvis to build his AI, but that would be the long route. He would rather have some information to help kickstart the project before beginning. F times CK that, Peter thought as his fingers typed like a madman, stealing as much data and research as he could. The reason Peter wants an AI so badly is because he saw how useful Jarvis was while helping Tony with his suit. With enough resources at an AI's disposal, they could do almost anything. A smart enough AI could probably manage Parker games and make games to release at the same time. All that Peter would have to do is give an idea for the game alongside some concept art, and the AI could work its magic. Not to mention the use an AI would have in the field. Ned is already his dispatch while out on patrol, but he's still only human. An AI would be able to hack into security cameras all around New York City and keep Peter updated on all crimes. Though, it would have to be far more powerful than Jarvis to do that, as even Tony's AI would have some trouble managing so many perspectives. Just thinking of all the responsibilities and work that Peter could offload onto artificial intelligence brings a smile to his face. 1 week later, after a week of working on his AI and getting hounded in school about Candy Crush, where most of his classmates asked for free gold, Peter was riding first class on the president's plane, Air Force One. As always, Peter was disguised in his spider suit. Fury leads an entire world-encompassing organization, so he wasn't able to make it. That, and he would tip off the World Security Council to their plans should he tag along. As for Tony, the guy is in the middle of a move. With everything that happened in LA, he wants to move out and relocate his company headquarters as well. It just so happened that he chose New York City as his new home. This decision definitely had nothing to do with his new best friend Spider-Man living there. Stark Industries already has a branch in New York, and Tony has multiple penthouses and mansions across the world, so he didn't have to build any skyscrapers or buy a new home. In less than a month, Tony and Stark Industries would call New York home. You know that I could have just portaled us to Japan, right? Peter reminds the president, who is sitting across from him, drinking a cup of coffee. True, but when you're the president, there are certain regulations to be followed when entering another country, Obama says as he places his coffee on the table. Also, I don't want to scare our allies by appearing through a portal. Do you have any idea how easily we could conquer the world with that ability? Hearing his reasons, Peter couldn't help but nod. Sending the US Army, which is one of, if not the most powerful arm on Earth, through portals to every country's capital city, would be a truly easy way to take over the world. If Kamar Taj wasn't keeping the peace, Peter was sure that would have happened by now. Yeah, but keeping the peace afterward would be hell, Peter says, getting a nod from the president. Just the thought of dealing with the people's unrest afterward gave him a headache. After spending some time on the plane and taking in the experience, Peter got bored and portaled home for a bit. He would return when the president texted him, letting Peter know that they landed. That's right. First was the Ancient One, and now Peter has the contact information of the President of the United States of America. It's good being Spider-Man, Peter thought as he dived into his bed. As Peter was about to take a nap, his phone buzzed and lit up. Looking over, he saw that it was a text from MJ. MJ, are you going to be busy, or can you make it to Christmas dinner next week? It's already Christmas time? Peter froze, forgetting as his life has been so busy lately. Wow, I missed Thanksgiving and Halloween. Peter, I didn't even know it was December. MJ, how? It's literally snowing right now. Looking out the window, Peter saw snow falling from the sky and blanketing the ground below. Times T. She's right, Peter muttered. Peter, sure, I'll be there. Are we doing it the day before Christmas or the day of? MJ. On the day of. May is already invited too. Peter. What about Ned? MJ. He has family visiting and can't make it. After finalizing some things and talking for a while, Peter brought out his ghost laptop and began searching for the best Christmas present for MJ and everyone else. What's the point of being rich if he can't buy some good gifts on special occasions? His busy life has caused him to miss some holidays, but Christmas wouldn't be one of them. Chapter 44, Hand. After looking at Christmas presents for a while, Peter ordered some things and took a short nap as he originally planned. After who knows how long, Peter was woken by the sound of his phone chiming. Looking over, he saw that it was a text from the president and swiftly switched to his spider suit and portaled back to the plane. Yo, Peter said as he stepped onto the plane and felt the exact moment it touched down on a runway in Tokyo. I still can't get over how convenient those portals of yours are. Obama comments as the portal closes behind Peter. Yeah, it's one of my favorite powers. Peter replies as the plane slows to a stop. Some Secret Service agents were already on the runway waiting for their arrival, while the ones on board the plane did a quick sweep before opening the exit hatch. Before the president could even exit the room they were in, the Secret Service had to perform multiple sweeps of the area, which took about 30 minutes. Once they were finally able to leave, the president and Spider-Man descended the stairs to the agents outside, shocking the Japanese dignitaries that came to welcome the president. None of them knew of Spider-Man's arrival, as the president kept it a secret, not wanting to tip off the World Security Council too soon. Obviously, they would find out sooner or later, but everyone currently involved would much prefer the latter outcome. Although the Japanese welcome party didn't expect to see Spider-Man, they certainly welcomed him warmly. Spider-Man's influence expands all over the world after all. A superhero is something to be admired in any culture all across the world. In fact, they welcomed Peter far more warmly and excitedly than they did Obama, who found the whole situation quite amusing. Of course, cameramen filmed and took pictures of their arrival, meaning the world would soon know of Spider-Man and the president's involvement with one another. Once the welcome ceremony was finished, Peter hopped in a heavily armored car with the president, who was escorted out by multiple cars filled with Secret Service men alongside Japanese police cars. The president would be staying in a hotel nearby the Prime Minister of Japan's official residence. The entire place was rented out with the president and his Secret Service agents taking all of the rooms for themselves. Peter wouldn't be staying with them, as he can just portal home to sleep at any time. Once the president was safely in the hotel with his agents guarding him closely, Peter went out to sightsee as Spider-Man. Swinging through the city as if he were back at home, Peter webbed his ghost phone to his chest and began recording. A Spider-Man vlog in Tokyo, Japan would definitely interest his viewers. Swinging through the city, Peter found some small-time crime and put a stop to it easily, surprising the perpetrators and victims as neither expected Spider-Man to appear halfway across the world. Before heading back to the president, Peter climbed Tokyo Tower and took a bunch of selfies, posting the best ones on Instagram. Not long after the long presidential convoy left the airport, one of the dignitaries that were in the welcome party got into a nearby car and made a phone call. As he left, the other dignitaries saw him off with the utmost respect, showing his position amongst the bunch. Asterisk. Ring ring. Asterisk. Speak? A man staring down from the top of a tall skyscraper in Tokyo answers the phone in Japanese. Insert picture of Murakami, finger of the hand, here. The American president arrived on time as expected, but he brought along an unexpected guest. The man from the welcome party says over the phone. Who? Murakami asks with interest clear in his voice. Spider-Man. The day after their arrival, Peter tagged along with the president to the first day of the UN Assembly. It was about as boring as Peter expected the whole thing to be, with briefings by Secretariat officials or technical experts, interactions with civil society, consultations and negotiations. Peter just scrolled through his ghost phone, reading the comments on his New Japan vlog, which was posted this morning. There are also a plethora of articles and news clips talking about Spider-Man visiting Tokyo with the President of the United States of America. Jonah Jameson was having a field day with the whole situation. The man was crafting government conspiracies and throwing Spider-Man's name in here and there. Sadly for him, only crazy people and those that have gone too far down the Daily Bugle's rabbit hole still believe him. The rest of the world has begun to see the man for who he really is. A scam artist that sells fake news to outrage the public, which in turn builds his fortune. It was a fairly comedic scene in the UN building, as Spider-Man sat next to Barack Obama with his feet up on the table and his phone in hand, scrolling through his different social media accounts. The men and women of the UN were all curious as to why he was here, though none spoke a word or complained. Spider-Man was a monumentally popular figure, and at the end of the day, each of them was a politician. They would treat Peter like a king just to stay in his good graces, as a negative impression could ruin their careers. All it would take is a single tweet and Spider-Man's almost 500 million followers would come crashing down onto their political careers. Once the long meeting was finished, the president turned to Peter. "Come on, we have a meeting with the Japanese Prime Minister," Obama says as Peter follows him to a meeting room in the UN building. There, waiting for them was Naoto Kan, the current Prime Minister of Japan, alongside some of his security agents standing nearby. After some quick introductions, Peter switched on the anti-surveillance switch on his phone and spoke up. "Would you mind asking your security to step out?" Peter said in slightly broken Japanese, shocking the native speakers in the room. What we will be speaking of is sensitive in nature. After learning all of those languages in Camartage, Peter spent his spare time learning to speak some of them as well, though he doesn't do so very well yet. Japanese is the best language he can currently speak besides English. It helps that he watches anime with MJ and uses that time to really get a feel for the language. After a moment of thought, the Prime Minister ordered his security to leave. They did so reluctantly, but made a point to emphasize that they would be right outside the door. "What's this all about?" the Prime Minister asks in perfect English, knowing that Barack doesn't speak Japanese. "Did you block the surveillance like last time?" The president turns to Peter, who nods. The Prime Minister was truly curious and a little nervous by this point, but Peter swiftly explained that he just didn't want their conversation getting out. "I understand. Now please explain," he says, dying to know by this point. This time, instead of Peter, the president was the one to explain the Avengers plan. Everything was perfectly explained, surprising the Prime Minister. "You speak as if you expect more enhanced individuals to appear in the future," he speculates, looking at Peter for an answer. "If I can get superpowers and Tony Stark can build a super suit, it's not illogical to assume that there's more to come. S.H.I.E.L.D. apparently has information on some of these people who have yet to reveal themselves," Peter says, getting an annoyed look from the Prime Minister. "Speaking of S.H.I.E.L.D., why aren't you just working with them? I may disagree with their secretive ways and the lack of a Japanese representative in the World Security Council, but they are the type of organization you're looking to build," the Prime Minister says. "I would rather build my own organization. I don't trust S.H.I.E.L.D. as a whole. We would also be far less secretive than S.H.I.E.L.D., Peter says as the Prime Minister's bad mood melts away. He didn't trust S.H.I.E.L.D. either, and this was something that he and Barack formed a sort of friendship over. "Okay, I need to think about this. Let's schedule another meeting for tomorrow after the UN Assembly," he says, and they say their goodbyes, leaving the Prime Minister alone in the room. Moments after Peter and the President leave, Murakami comes strolling into the room as if he owned the place. Instantly, the Prime Minister bows deeply toward Murakami, treating him with the utmost respect. "Ancestor," the Prime Minister greets. "I couldn't listen in on the meeting. What happened?" Murakami asks, treating the leader of Japan as a mere subordinate. They used some sort of device to stop the cameras and microphones from working. I apologize for the inconvenience. The Prime Minister says, bowing deeply once again. I see, explain what happened. Chapter 45, Ninja. After being briefed on what the meeting was about by the Prime Minister, Murakami returned home to think about what to do. If they were to allow such a force, like the Avengers, to be created, then how long would it be before that new blade is pointed at the hand? The hand doesn't care for what atrocities it commits. As long as they get closer to their goal of immortality, all of the fingers of the hand would gladly commit genocide. A peacekeeping force like the Avengers is just a poison that will sooner or later strike out against them. Though, the problem with not getting involved is even worse. Spider-Man would simply move on to another country, and many would gladly work with him and Tony Stark. This is the predicament that the hand has been put in. Either get involved and find a way to mitigate the Avengers somehow, or don't get involved and stop this whole thing before it comes together. As Murakami was contemplating this, the door opened, and in came a hand ninja. At first, Murakami was annoyed as he didn't call for this subordinate, but then he noticed something odd. The man's eyes were pitch black, devoid of any light or spark of life which any living human would possess. Kaiju-sama. The next day, Peter had a meeting with the Prime Minister once again, where the man instantly declined to participate in the Avengers plan, which was odd since Peter felt that the man was interested on the day before. Something changed. Peter frowned in thought as he watched the Prime Minister leave the room with his security. Don't be so down, Barack says, as he sees Peter watching the door where the Prime Minister just left. We still have other countries to meet with. One refusal doesn't mean anything. Peter nods toward Obama, not voicing his thoughts about the odd change in the Prime Minister. Later that night, Peter decided to continue patrolling Tokyo. They would be meeting with a representative from the United Kingdom tomorrow about the Avengers initiative, so he didn't plan to stay out for too long. As Peter was stopping a store robbery and had the perpetrators webbed up for the police, a group of ninjas shrouded in dark red garb walked from the shadows. Their faces and bodies were completely covered with only the eyes showing. Insert picture of hand ninja here. Wow. Are you guys ninjas? Peter asks excitedly, remembering this look from the Daredevil TV show. What's the hand doing here? Well, this is Japan. The hand originated in this country. The real question is, why are they coming to me? The Yami no Te, also referred to as the Hand, was an ancient and powerful ninja clan with the ultimate goal to gain immortality. Without a word, one of the ninjas takes out a piece of paper and brings it up to Peter, handing it over. Taking the paper with a shrug, Peter opens it and finds an address written inside. Should I go here now? Peter was curious what the Hand could possibly want from him. He knew that the Hand probably had the worst intentions possible, but Peter was far too curious about what was going on. Hearing Peter's question, the ninja nodded before turning and dashing into the shadows alongside the rest of the ninjas. That's so cool. Peter couldn't help but mutter. He knew that the ninja didn't actually meld into the shadows and could sense them sneaking away behind buildings and walls, but that didn't stop him from respecting the skill to move the way they do without any enhancements like himself. Typing in the address on the GPS of his ghost phone, Peter followed it to a tea house, which was empty except for the workers and a single table. It wasn't very noticeable, but there was a small handprint symbol on this building and a few others in the area. The people that would walk by seemed to notice this and give these buildings a wide berth as they passed by. At the table inside was a man who was casually drinking tea without a care in the world. Peter instantly recognized him from the Daredevil TV show. Insert picture of Nobu Yoshioka here. Nobu? Peter thought, remembering that he's a high-ranking member of the Hand, as well as the subordinate of one of the 5 fingers of the Hand, Murakami. Walking over to the table, Peter looked at the man who was obviously waiting for his arrival. Hey, are you with those ninjas? Peter plays dumb as he takes a seat. Spider-Man, it's an honor to meet you. Nobu bows slightly, ignoring Peter's question. You may refer to me as Nobu. Sure? Peter didn't know how to respond. What's this all about? Peter didn't trust the hand whatsoever and was starting to believe that they may have had something to do with the Prime Minister's decision earlier in the day. Why are they getting involved? Peter thought. We, the hand, Nobu motions toward the hand symbol on the wall inside of the building, are an old and influential ninja clan here in Japan. If you would allow it, we could help you with your Avengers plan. I knew it, Peter thought, as the man all but outright confirms that they are involved with the minister's decision somehow. Seeing as Peter didn't sense anyone listening in on his conversation with the minister, and the anti-surveillance function on his phone was on, that means that the hand has some form of control over the Prime Minister, meaning that the hand has control over Japan as well. Are you saying that you can get the Prime Minister to agree? What do you get out of this? Peter asks, trying to get some information before he acts. Yes, but we would like to be more involved. The hand has connections and people all around the world. We can assist in information gathering or fighting should it be required. Nobu makes his offer. If Peter didn't already know about the hand, he may have been swayed to work with them, but he knew that these people didn't have good intentions. The only question remaining was, what do they want? Are they trying to get involved with the Avengers so they aren't attacked later on? Or are they trying to get something from him or Tony maybe? Okay, give me some time to think on this, and I'll get back to you, Peter says as he shoots a web to a nearby table, pulling over a pen and paper. Write down your phone number, and I'll contact you soon with an answer. After getting a number, which Peter knew would most likely lead to nothing, Peter left the tea shop and made sure he wasn't followed before casting a light refractory, spell minor invisibility, and a silencing spell on himself. Rushing back to the shop, Peter caught sight of Nobu getting into an SUV. Where are you going? Peter thought as he stealthily followed behind the car. Flashback. Kaiju-sama, I wasn't expecting you. Murakami bows toward the black-eyed ninja, who on any other day would be doing the same toward him. I decided to stretch my legs, so to speak. A deep rumbling voice, which didn't feel real, left the ninja's mouth. I need new servants at the temple. The last group has become too compliant for my tastes. Of course, I'll have my men get rid of them. You'll have new toys by tomorrow morning. Murakami responds dutifully. Although he is very respectful to this man, Murakami isn't doing so out of respect. He fears this being, as every other finger of the hand does. No need. The ninja pats his stomach. I've already taken care of them. Just be sure that the new servants are ready to clean up after their predecessors. They will be there by morning, Murakami says with a bow. Now, what's this I hear about a Spider-Man visiting my country? The ninja asks. Murakami explained the whole situation without missing a single bit of information. It's as if he's had hundreds of years to understand how to handle and please the person in front of him. He especially explains everything he knows about Spider-Man, from his actions as a hero to the powers he possesses. Interesting, the ninja says in its deep rumble voice. This world is becoming more interesting. Find a way to lure this man to my temple. He sounds like the perfect vessel. As Kaiju-sama says this, black smoke shoots from his mouth, nose, eyes, and ears. As the smoke dissipates into the air, the ninja's body falls to the ground like a puppet without strings. Blood streams down from every hole in the ninja's head and pools onto the wooden floor. Murakami looked at the lifeless body with disgust. The respect that he showed earlier was completely gone. Chapter 46, Ninja Battle. Following the SUV unnoticed, Peter was led to a Japanese-style mansion occupied by Murakami himself. The subordinate brought him straight to the boss. Peter didn't act just yet, though. He wanted to know what was going on and what the motive was behind the hand's actions. Usually, the hand is a very secretive group. They wouldn't just out themselves to an unknown person so easily, so they have to have some motive that Peter hasn't figured out yet. How was the meeting? Murakami asks as Nobu walks into his office and gives a respectful bow. Unknown, he asked for my contact information and then left. Nobu says, causing Murakami to look disappointed. He should contact me with an answer soon enough. Nobu noticed the look on Murakami's face and tried to appease his disappointment. Maybe we should have captured him? Murakami asks rhetorically, causing Peter, who was crawling in the wall outside the window, to confirm his suspicions. Why do they want to kidnap me? Peter thought as he just listens and watches from the window like a spider on the wall. Did you at least have some men follow and keep track of him? Murakami asks hopefully. Yes, but they lost sight of him almost instantly, Nobu says with a shake of his head. He's far too fast for us to follow. If I may speak directly, sir, why are we trying to capture such a dangerous man? We may not fear death, but there's only so much dragon bone elixir to go around. I'm afraid that decision is out of my hands, Murakami says, internally agreeing with his subordinate. Now, go and let me know when he contacts you. Maybe we can track his location. Yes, sir, Nobu says as he bows and steps toward the door. F-time seek it. Peter wasn't sure what was going on, but he decided to just capture these guys and find out afterward. They were getting themselves involved with his business, and it's not like they were some super-powered threats. Peter could handle a few ninjas, and if he wanted them dead, all he has to do is incinerate the bodies. The only problem would be Murakami, who has enhanced durability and strength due to the elixir he and the other fingers took to increase their longevity. Though, Peter had a lot more than that and was probably stronger than the man as well. Deactivating his minor invisibility spell, Peter crashes through the window feet first, kicking Murakami in the back. As soon as Peter made contact, Murakami twisted his body, trying to counter, but Peter was just too strong. Murakami was sent flying over his desk and crashed through the doorway, which Nobu was about to open. Who dares? Nobu asks incredulously as he turns to see Spider-Man sitting on his master's desk with his legs crossed casually. Hello, Nobu-san, Peter says, sending the guy a wave. Insert Xbox Kojima-san meme here. Spider-Man? Nobu stutters as Murakami stands to his feet, brushing some broken bits of wood from his suit. Don't go scurrying off now, Peter comments as he shoots a web at Murakami, who didn't expect it and was pulled back into his office. As the man was being pulled across the wood floor, he brought 2 fingers to his mouth and whistled loudly. Instantly, Peter could hear light footsteps from inside and outside the house, all converging on his location. Peter hemmed as he thought about the annoyance he was about to deal with. Let's keep you 2 in place while I deal with your minions. Not giving the man a chance, Peter embodied his inner porn star and covered Murakami in his white substance. The man is enhanced, so Peter was sure to really layer it on. While he was doing so, Nobu sprang into action and rushed at Peter, pulling 2 short blades from behind his back. Be a good boy and sit quietly, Peter says as he meets Nobu halfway and backhands him across the face, sending the loyal subordinate crashing down. Kicking the knives away, Peter webs up Nobu and secures Murakami until the man was nothing but a big yarn ball of white web. He wasn't sure how strong this Murakami was and didn't want a ninja to cut him free during the coming scuffle, so Peter was very thorough. Once Peter was finished, the fun really began. 10 red-clad ninjas came running down the hallway and into the broken door. As soon as they stepped foot inside the room, every window in the room shattered as another 4 ninjas came crashing through in the same manner as Peter, though they weren't the last. One by one ninja from outside came pouring through the windows and another group crowded the doorway from the hall. Not only that, Peter could hear even more ninja entering the property. You guys are like ants, huh? Peter says as he watches the ninjas surround him casually. The ninjas searched the room for their master, who was the one to call them, but only found Nobu and a big boulder-sized cluster of web, which was twitching ever so slightly. He's pretty strong, huh? Peter thought as he glanced at the trapped Murakami. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a clean fight. No eye poking, blows below the belt, or strikes to the back of the head. Peter starts acting like a referee in a boxing match, not taking any of these trained killers seriously. Now, get back to your corners and we'll start the first round. A few of the more hot-headed ninja acted first, jumping at Peter from every corner of the room. Smirking at these easily manipulated people, Peter jumps and sticks himself to the ceiling, making the overzealous ninjas crash into each other. As the ninjas bump into one another, Peter webs them up from the ceiling and drops down on top of them, dodging some throwing knives that pierce the ceiling only moments after his fall. Now that the weak among you has been dealt with, let's begin, Peter says as he moves far quicker than any of these ninja could possibly follow. Peter turned into a hurricane as he moved across the room, wreaking havoc. Wherever he went, bodies would fall and screams would echo. When Peter would take care of a ninja, another would take his place, as an almost unending number of ninja constantly entertained the room. Halfway through the brawl, Peter started walking on the ceiling, as the floor became annoying to maneuver with the many unconscious ninjas sleeping below. After almost half an hour of constant fighting, the room was stacked with unconscious bodies up to almost 2 meters high. Thankfully, Murakami has some high ceilings in his house, or Peter would have had to give up his close quarters advantage and leave the room. With every enemy knocked out cold, Peter started processing them like an Amazon packaging facility, pulling them out of the room one by one before wrapping them up in web and stacking them in the hall and other rooms. Sigh, I feel like a factory worker or something, Peter comments as he finally finished packaging the detained ninja. He could have just left them here and taken Nobu and Murakami for questioning, but Peter decided to not allow any witnesses to get away. They could tip off the other fingers of the hand, which would most likely bring Peter nothing but trouble, though they could already know. Walking up to Nobu and the ball that contains Murakami, who he left in the office, Peter pulls up an office chair and takes a seat. "Wakey, wakey," Peter says as he dumps a glass of water on Nobu's head. "Huh?" Nobu grunts and gasps for air as the water splashes his face. After getting his bearings, Nobu looked toward Peter and sighed sadly. He could see the blood and destroyed room alongside some of the bodies stacked in the hallway outside and the still twitching ball containing his master. "Sigh, I knew we shouldn't have done this." Nobu sighs defeatedly as he relaxes onto the ground, not daring to test Spider-Man patience. "Tell me about who can force the hand to capture me? It didn't sound as if you or your boss here," Peter pats the web ball, "wanted to do this, so give me your best guess." "I won't speak," Nobu says defeatedly. "Just kill us and be on your way. What were your words earlier? We may not fear death, but there's only so much dragon bone elixir to go around." Peter repeats Nobu's earlier sentence word for word. Why kill people that don't fear death and probably won't remain that way? Instantly, Nobu's eyes go wide as he knew that he shouldn't have said that earlier. Just one slip of the tongue has revealed one of the hand's greatest powers. You know what? Peter stands as he thought of something. "You guys probably won't break very easily, so let's send you all somewhere to think about what you've done, shall we?" As he says this, Peter knocks Nobu out once again before waving his hand, conjuring a portal on the floor, which swallows Murakami and Nobu. Chapter 47. X. As Nobu and Murakami fell through the portal, Peter made his exit, returning home for the night to get some sleep. Nobu and Murakami were both sent to the mirror dimension, where they would be trapped, as neither has a sling ring or practices the mystic arts. Peter debated on sending them to some other dimension, like the negative zone, but the risk of running into other cosmic entities or somehow empowering the two prisoners was too large to ignore. They wouldn't have the slightest clue how to break out anyway, so Peter wasn't worried in the slightest. As for the countless hand ninja left behind, Peter didn't bother dealing with them anymore. He could trap them in the mirror dimension as well, but dealing with so many people would leak his many powers in the mystic arts. Peter would have to kill them all or wipe their minds in order to keep his secret, and that was all just too much of a hassle. Leaving them behind will tip off the rest of the hand, but it's not like Peter can't deal with some ninja. Even Murakami, who is one of the 5 most powerful people in the hand, was fairly easy to deal with. Returning home and hopping into bed, Peter leaves his 2 prisoners in the mirror dimension and would be visiting them in the morning. Walking through a portal to the mirror dimension, Peter was instantly attacked by Nobu and Murakami, who both tried to kick him away and sprint through the portal. Smirking, as he knew this would happen, Peter allowed the 2 to kick him, but once they got near the portal, Peter controlled the portal and made it move just out of reach, taunting the two prisoners. "Is that the way you should be greeting your captor?" Peter comments as he flips to his feet. Neither prisoner gave up though, as both of them kept sprinting at the portal, which closed slowly, taunting them even more. Sadly for them, as Murakami tried to dive through, the portal closed completely, and he ended up crashing onto the ground defeatedly. "It's nice to officially meet you. I'm Spider-Man. I see that Nobu got you out of the ball." Peter greets Murakami as the man himself stands to his feet, ready to engage Peter in combat. "You should calm down. You'll be stuck here for a while anyway. No need to tire yourselves out." Murakami didn't listen and dashed at Peter, thrusting his palm forward with the skill of a millennia-old master. Stepping to the side with his hands behind his back, Peter easily dodged everything Murakami could throw at him. He may not have the same thousands of years of experience, but spider sense was just too overpowered. It wasn't just the spider senses though. Peter's experience training with Natasha has made him many times better at dealing with martial artists. "You should really calm down." Peter comments as he moves with the grace of a skilled dancer, dodging every attack that Murakami could throw at him. "You may be enhanced and skilled, but I'm just better." Nobu watched from the sidelines with his mouth hanging open in shock. Usually, during his sparring sessions with Murakami, it would be him that was treated like a novice. Now, the man that he thought untouchable was the one being treated as the newbie. They were even arrogant enough to believe that Spider-Man only won against them in the beginning because he took Murakami by surprise. Both of them now learned that this was just prideful thinking. "How can we get out of this? Prison? What do you want?" Murakami sighs in defeat as he steps back, knowing he can't do anything to Spider-Man. "Tell me about why you plan to capture me?" Peter asks, and both prisoners look at each other, not saying a word. "Okay, let's see how long you'll last in here before breaking. I wonder how long it will be before one of you eats the other?" Peter leaves them with this question as he opens a portal, not allowing either of them to follow him through. He would leave them there for a few days this time to let them really feel their predicament. While on his way to meet the president, as they have a meeting with a representative of the United Kingdom, Peter texted the Ancient One about his prisoners in the mirror dimension. He didn't want her or any other master to accidentally let them out, and based on her response, she didn't mind his use of the mirror dimension. While sitting through yet another UN meeting alongside the president, Peter thought it would be another boring day, but his expectations were immediately flipped upside down. Rolling up to the podium in the front of the room was a familiar-looking bald man in a wheelchair. Insert picture of Professor X in his wheelchair here. A divided by N. I won't be following the X-Men movies. I may use them as references, but that's it. Wow, he looks like Patrick Stewart. Peter thought as he set eyes on one of the most powerful telepaths in Marvel. I should have expected this after seeing Dopinder that one time. Peter was slightly worried about his mind being breached, but Charles was usually depicted as a morally sound man. If he did try to read his mind, Peter would know from his training at Kamar Taj. Though blocking the man may be easier said than done. I need to speak to the Ancient One about some telepath protections, Peter thought. Greetings everyone. I'm Professor Charles Xavier. I have multiple Ph.D. S in genetics, biophysics, psychology, anthropology, and psychiatry from Oxford University and Columbia University. Charles introduces himself after parking himself next to the podium and grabbing the mic. After hearing all of this man's credentials, representatives from all around the world listened up, knowing that this was an expert they were dealing with. Peter showed some respect to the man and took his feet off the table and even put his phone away, surprising everyone in the room. I'm here to speak on mutation in the human genome. Mutation is the key to our evolution. It has enabled us to evolve from a single-celled organism into the dominant species of this planet. This process is slow and normally takes thousands and thousands of years. But every few hundred millennia, evolution leaps forward. Charles starts. That leap can come in minor forms. Images appear on a large screen behind Charles, depicting different physical changes humans have gone through in their evolution in modern times. If I might speak, a man with a heavy Russian accent speaks. What's this all about? I'm getting to that. Charles says as a video plays behind him of a young teenage boy with large white angel wings. This is Angel. His real name will remain hidden, but he and his parents allowed us to use him as an example. This is what a major leap in human evolution looks like. The crowd goes quiet as they all watch the video of this unknown boy moving his wings before flapping them and shooting into the air. Some of your countries may have already seen these mutations popping up in your borders. Through my research into these mutant individuals, I've found that they possess something I call the X gene. The X gene's activation leads to the production of an exotic protein. This protein produces chemical signals, inducing mutations on other genes, ending up with mutant organisms of various empowerment. Charles continues, "Are you saying a mutant can have any power? What type of powers have you seen so far? But every few hundred millennia, evolution leaps forward." Charles starts. That leap can come in minor forms. Images appear on a large screen behind Charles, depicting different physical changes humans have gone through in their evolution in modern times. If I might speak, a man with a heavy Russian accent speaks. What's this all about? I'm getting to that. Charles says as a video plays behind him of a young teenage boy with large white angel wings. This is Angel. His real name will remain hidden, but he and his parents allowed us to use him as an example. This is what a major leap in human evolution looks like. The crowd goes quiet as they all watch the video of this unknown boy moving his wings before flapping them and shooting into the air. Some of your countries may have already seen these mutations popping up in your borders. Through my research into these mutant individuals, I've found that they possess something I call the X gene. The X gene's activation leads to the production of an exotic protein. This protein produces chemical signals, inducing mutations on other genes, ending up with mutant organisms of various empowerment. Charles continues, "Are you saying a mutant can have any power? What type of powers have you seen so far? But every few hundred millennia, evolution leaps forward." Charles starts. That leap can come in minor forms. Images appear on a large screen behind Charles, depicting different physical changes humans have gone through in their evolution in modern times. If I might speak, a man with a heavy Russian accent speaks. What's this all about? I'm getting to that. Charles says as a video plays behind him of a young teenage boy with large white angel wings. This is Angel. His real name will remain hidden, but he and his parents allowed us to use him as an example. This is what a major leap in human evolution looks like. The crowd goes quiet as they all watch the video of this unknown boy moving his wings before flapping them and shooting into the air. Some of your countries may have already seen these mutations popping up in your borders. Through my research into these mutant individuals, I've found that they possess something I call the X gene. The X gene's activation leads to the production of an exotic protein. This protein produces chemical signals, inducing mutations on other genes, ending up with mutant organisms of various empowerment. Charles continues, "Are you saying a mutant can have any power? What type of powers have you seen so far? But every few hundred millennia, evolution leaps forward." Charles starts. That leap can come in minor forms. Images appear on a large screen behind Charles, depicting different physical changes humans have gone through in their evolution in modern times. If I might speak, a man with a heavy Russian accent speaks. What's this all about? I'm getting to that, Charles says as a video plays behind him of a young teenage boy with large white angel wings. This is Angel. His real name will remain hidden, but he and his parents allowed us to use him as an example. This is what a major leap in human evolution looks like. The crowd goes quiet as they all watch the video of this unknown boy moving his wings before flapping them and shooting into the air. Some of your countries may have already seen these mutations popping up in your borders. Through my research into these mutant individuals, I've found that they possess something I call the X gene. The X gene's activation leads to the production of an exotic protein. This protein produces chemical signals, inducing mutations on other genes, ending up with mutant organisms of various empowerment. Charles continues, "Are you saying a mutant can have any power? What type of powers have you seen so far? But every few hundred millennia, evolution leaps forward." Charles starts. That leap can come in minor forms. Images appear on a large screen behind Charles, depicting different physical changes humans have gone through in their evolution in modern times. If I might speak, a man with a heavy Russian accent speaks. "What's this all about?" "I'm getting to that," Charles says as a video plays behind him of a young teenage boy with large white angel wings. This is Angel. His real name will remain hidden, but he and his parents allowed us to use him as an example. This is what a major leap in human evolution looks like. The crowd goes quiet as they all watch the video of this unknown boy moving his wings before flapping them and shooting into the air. Some of your countries may have already seen these mutations popping up in your borders. Through my research into these mutant individuals, I found that they possess something I call the X gene. The X gene's activation leads to the production of an exotic protein. This protein produces chemical signals, inducing mutations on other genes, ending up with mutant organisms of various empowerment. Charles continues, "Are you saying a mutant can have any power? What type of powers have you seen so far?" "A boarding school," Charles says with an excited smile. "That's not a bad idea, but it's far too simple," Peter says, instantly wiping the smile from Xavier's face. "I agree that some sort of school should be put in place. These children will need to learn how to control their powers after all, but what about the rest of the world? We can't just segregate all metahumans to your school. That won't solve the problem. The world needs to see metahumans as just another race added to the mix." Everyone around the room started getting headaches, as they instantly knew that this was going to take up so much of their time. As Peter was about to finish his point, someone mentioned the time and the meeting came to a close. Charles would have to come back tomorrow to finish, but he expected that already. "Maybe I can combine the X-Men with my Avengers plan," Peter thought as he watched Xavier roll off the stage. Before following the president to their meeting with the representative from the United Kingdom, Peter stayed behind and waited for Xavier. "Charles," Peter says, and Xavier instantly turns his chair. "Come with me. We should talk." Charles nods as he rolls up to Peter, followed by a brown-skinned woman with white hair, dressed in all black. Insert picture of Storm here. "Storm, huh? I always thought that she had the coolest powers in the X-Men," Peter thought. Storm can control the weather and atmosphere, and is considered to be one of the most powerful mutants on the planet. "I wonder who else joined up with Charles already," Peter thought as he held his hand out. "Hello, I should probably introduce myself. I'm Spider-Man, Charles Xavier," he says and shakes Peter's hand. "You are?" Peter turns to Storm and extends his hand to her as well. "Ororo Munro," she says and gives Peter a quick shake before pulling away. "Good to meet you two. Now follow along. We have a meeting to get to," Peter says as he turns and starts walking. As Peter leads them to a meeting room in the building, the president and the UK representative looked at them in confusion. "Are we involving Professor Xavier in this?" Obama asks. "Yep, everyone take a seat," Peter says as he makes room for Charles at the table before sitting down himself. "What's this all about?" Charles asks before anyone else. "There's so much that needs to be talked about that I don't even know where to start," Peter says as he goes into a long-winded explanation of the Avengers initiative plan. "That sounds like something we'll need, especially after learning about these metahumans. The UK representative was very energetic about the Avengers plan. "Thank you, X-Men," Peter thought happily, as Charles seems to have helped push things into motion. Hearing his slip of the tongue, Charles knew that he messed up when labeling his people as mutants. Thankfully, Spider-Man was there to set everyone straight. He can only hope that it wasn't too late, though. "Why are we here?" "I only wish to build a school," Charles asks, not willing to involve his children in this. "I believe we can combine our efforts," Peter says, getting a skeptical look from both Storm and Charles. "Oh, don't look at me like that. I have no plan to use school children as soldiers or anything like that. Though these children will grow up one day, and at that point they can make their own choices. Now, not all of them would be interested in becoming a hero, but some may find the job appealing. The Avengers happen to have a very wealthy backing as well," Peter says, referring to Tony. "We could easily fund anything you would ever need." The room goes silent as Charles went into deep thought. He didn't plan to work with anyone, but Spider-Man was so influential in their society that it was hard to say no. Peter didn't say it, but with his backing, metahumans would have a far easier time being accepted into the world. Spider-Man commands a fan base of more than 500 million people from all around the world, and that following only grows with each passing day. Proof of this showed in the UN meeting they just sat through. Normally, some random person wouldn't be allowed in the room, yet Spider-Man was there and even spoke freely without repercussion. I need some time to think," Charles says as he wheels himself out of the room. "That's okay." Peter nods as he writes down his ghost phone's number, handing it to Storm as she followed Charles out of the room. "Call me with your decision. There's a lot that we need to iron out after all." Once the X-Men left the room, Peter turned to the UK's representative. "So, are you on board?" Peter asks hopefully. "Yes, 100%, he says with a vigorous nod. "With the way things are going, the world will need something like this more than ever." "One down and 4 more to go," Peter thought happily. "Good, then you two work on the next meeting. Maybe contact South Korea next? You want me to help as well?" The UK representative asks in surprise. "Yup, you're involved now, so you might as well help out," Peter says as he stands and walks toward the door. "See you two tomorrow." Chapter 49. Enemy Movement. As soon as Peter found a safe place to portal away, he immediately went straight to Camertage, hoping to find a way to protect his mind from Professor Xavier and any other telepath he'll most likely soon run into. Peter still didn't think that Charles would read his mind without permission, but people in the real world are different from their comic book counterparts. He would just rather be safe than sorry, especially since Peter is trying to absorb the X-Men into his Avengers plan. Professor X may decide to give his mind a quick read to make sure Peter's intentions are in the right place, which they are, but he doesn't know that for sure. Arriving in the same room where Peter originally met the Ancient One, he begins his search with her usual stomping grounds. Create an image. American comic-style art. Full body. Low. Charles sitting in his office, holding his phone with a serious expression. His posture relaxed yet thoughtful as he speaks to Spider-Man. Med shot. Hi. Spider-Man standing in his room, with a look of surprise and annoyance on his face as he glances at MJ, who is sitting on the bed with a playful but confused expression. Close up. Aye. Charles listening intently on the phone, his expression calm but serious, showing his need to have a private conversation. Background shows the office with the door slightly ajar, hinting at the tension outside, while Spider-Man's room shows MJ and Peter's sudden, interrupted moment. 16:9 ratio. Before getting to sleep, Peter took out his ghost phone and texted MJ good night. "Peter, good night. I'll come by after tomorrow's meetings." She didn't answer, as MJ was probably still asleep, so he tossed his phone aside and went straight to sleep. The UN meeting on the next day was the tamest of them all. Neither Charles nor Eric attended this one. Charles is waiting for their decision on his presentation, while Magneto has no interest in the meetings if Charles isn't there and it's not about metahumans. Since the meetings became boring again, Peter went back on his ghost phone and found some articles about metahumans at the UN summit in Japan. It seems someone finally leaked it, Peter thought as he read through some of the articles. There were some blurry pictures and videos of Magneto floating in the air, and the destroyed wall of the building, alongside some privileged information about the meetings, alongside Spider-Man's involvement in them. It especially showed Spider-Man in a good light, keeping the peace between the new superpowered groups that appeared. The reaction online about metahumans seems to be mixed. Some hate groups like racist and extreme religious communities were reacting badly, but the rest seemed to be alright. Most responses are curious, excited, scared, or other normal reaction, but the large majority is skeptical. After all, there isn't much clear proof behind all of this. The only proof is blurry and could easily be faked, so Peter decided to clear things up. Opening Twitter, Peter started writing a tweet at Spider-Man. Expect a video on metahumans to come out soon. Peter knew that seeing was believing, so he would contact Charles to film a YouTube video on the new race of people stepping into the world. They needed some good publicity as early as possible, or else people with bad intentions will start taking advantage. As Peter makes this tweet, the meeting came to an end. We can't just segregate all metahumans to your school. That won't solve the problem. The world needs to see metahumans as just another race added to the mix. Metahumans? Huh? Magneto finally speaks as the video ended. Doesn't sound so bad. Eric didn't know if Spider-Man was a mutant or not, but the man seemed to have his people's best interests at heart. Though Charles has their best interest at heart as well, so it all depends on which side Spider-Man would take. The idealist or the realist? Of course, the idealist being Charles and the realist being Eric. Tapping a few times on his phone, Magneto sets it down and returns inside to pack his bags. The phone was still lit with 2 messages shown below the video he just watched. Eric, I'll be there soon. It's been a while since I've seen Charles. Raven, I'll have a hotel booked for your arrival. Unaware of the SH×2 storm heading his way, Peter spent the whole day in the library until he found the perfect way to protect his mind. At least until he could safely start practicing personal energies and build up his own telepathic skills and defenses. His solution came in the form of a fairly complicated enchantment, which is placed on the back of the head. Sadly, the enchantment leaves a mark unlike the protection Peter places on his friends and family. Thankfully, Peter has hair, so the mark won't be noticeable unless he shaves his head like the Ancient One. The enchantment is supposed to put up a mental barrier around the enchanter's mind, but that's not all. When that barrier is attacked, it redirects that energy back at the attacker with the same intensity. As long as the person doesn't try too hard after hitting the barrier, they'll only encounter a slight migraine that will last a few minutes. Though, if someone continues to assault Peter's mind even after the migraine occurs, they could do some serious damage to themselves. A brain hemorrhage, brain bleed, could happen, which would then cause a stroke or other serious side effects. If someone tried hard enough and fought through the pain, they could probably kill themselves. After spending half the night practicing the enchantment, so he doesn't blow his brains out of his eye sockets on accident, Peter finally placed the enchantment on himself. He hasn't tested it, and he doesn't know how he would go about doing that, other than asking a master to read his mind. Though Peter wasn't sure if he wanted to risk it. Some overzealous master may try showing off and bypass it somehow. Peter would rather just wait for the Ancient One as he trusts her. It's hard not to after spending so much time with the woman. Checking his phone, Peter saw that the Ancient One didn't answer his text yet, which means she's probably in some other dimension. I guess that I'll just have to wait for her to get back and hope it works until then. Peter thought as he portaled home and hopped into bed. Before heading off to sleep, Peter looked up some more Christmas presents. He has less than a week until Christmas dinner at MJ's house, so he needed to get everything beforehand. After ordering the last of his presents in some wrapping paper, Peter wrapped himself up in blankets and knocked out. While Peter slept soundly, multiple private jets filled with the leaders of the Hand alongside their small armies flew to Japan. These planes would land long before Peter woke up the next morning. As for Magneto, he would make it to Japan long before the Hand. With the help of his Omega level power, which basically means he is in the upper echelon of mutants, Eric encased himself in some scrap metal and flew to his destination at speeds well above Mach 2. Chapter 50. UN Scuffle. When Peter woke up the next day, some of the packages he originally ordered had arrived already. After sneaking them into his room before May could snoop around, Peter completed his morning rituals and returned to Japan to accompany the president. They have a meeting with the representative from South Korea today after all. With the UK on board, only 4 more countries needed to join. Peter technically has school today, but missing a few days here and there means nothing to him. With his current grades, the teachers wouldn't mind, and MJ would bring him any work he missed. She and Ned know he's busy in Japan dealing with the Avengers plan anyway. While riding in the convoy leading to the UN building with the president by his side, Peter scrolled through his phone looking for texts from the Ancient One and Professor X. Sadly, neither of them contacted him yet. He wasn't worried about the Ancient One, as she is more than strong enough to handle any situation. Charles, on the other hand, was probably still thinking about whether to take Peter's offer or not. Hopefully, he would come to a decision today. While enjoying the ride, Peter looked up any information on the UN meeting from yesterday, yet he couldn't find a single article on mutants or metahumans. No one leaked it yet? Peter thought in surprise. Although the information hasn't been leaked, it's just a matter of time until someone wants to make some quick money. Maybe I should speak to Charles about starting a public relations campaign on metahumans before the media finds out, Peter thought. When they arrived at the UN building, Peter sent a good morning text with a heart to MJ, explaining that he was in Japan still. Peter made Ned, MJ, and May their own ghost phones, so they could talk and text about sensitive information without SHIELD or Hydra snooping. Put his phone away, Peter followed the president and his many Secret Service men inside. After sitting through some boring nonsense, Charles rolled his way up to the podium on the stage yet again, ready to finish his presentation from yesterday. Peter could see Storm at the side of the stage, accompanying the professor once again. As he parked next to the podium and grabbed the microphone, Charles tried to speak, but suddenly the building began to shake and creak. What's happening? Is this an earthquake? The worldwide representatives were surprised and scared as some ducked under their desks. Peter looked toward a certain wall, where he could sense someone floating in the air outside of the building. Is it? Peter had a good idea of who was behind the wall. Professor X is here after all. His nemesis wouldn't be too far behind, would he? Instantly, Peter took his phone out of his pocket and opened a mini portal under the desk, throwing it inside stealthily. Every portion of Peter's suit is metal-free, so the only object on his person that could be used against him is his cell phone. Once his ghost phone was sent to his bedroom, Peter closed the portal and sat back, casually watching the show that would unfold. He would act if people started fighting and endangering the innocent individuals in the room, but it looks more like Magneto wants to make a grand entrance. Looking over at Peter, the president sees his spider friend's calm demeanor while looking at a portion of the wall. As Obama looked over at the wall as well, suddenly a huge chunk of it breaks off and floats away from the building. As the huge chunk of the UN building floats away, they could all hear the sound of the metal pipes underneath creaking and rattling. When the broken piece of the building crashes to the ground outside, the sun's rays stream into the meeting hall, but something floated in the air, blocking a portion of the light. Charles. A voice fills the area as a human-shaped outline floats into the building. It's good to see you again, old friend. Eric. Professor X replies curtly as Magneto enters the building, metal helmet and all. Almost instantly, Storm rushes to the professor's side, ready to fight at any moment as she glares in Magneto's direction. Clouds begin to form outside as the low rumbling of thunder can be heard in the distance. Put your hands up. A particularly brave security officer pulls his pistol and aims it at Magneto shakily. Sighing to himself, Peter acts before Eric could and shoots a web at the weapon, pulling it out of the man's grasp. Everyone in the room saw this and looked at Peter in shock, not expecting Spider-Man to help this intruder. Even President Obama looked at Peter with surprise and a small amount of suspicion. Don't look at me like that. He used the metal pipes in the wall to make his entrance. It's obvious that he has some sort of metal manipulation powers. Do you think some bullets will do anything but make him angry? Peter comments with a shrug, causing every security officer to unsurely and reluctantly lower their weapons. A look of realization instantly filled everyone's faces as they looked at Spider-Man apologetically for their earlier thoughts, especially the president. Are you sure you aren't one of us, Spider-Man? That kind of quick thinking can only come from a mutant. Eric says as a small smile graces his lips. Or is it meta-human now? Magneto seemed to forget about the man that drew his gun on him, which was good as Peter would have to act if the man started attacking innocent people. I don't know if I'm a meta-human, but I wouldn't mind either way. Peter answers with a shrug. Though shouldn't you be introducing yourself? Maybe land while you're at it? I don't feel like looking up while I'm talking to someone. It feels disrespectful. While Peter is talking with Eric, Charles and Storm have been talking over some sort of earpieces. They seem to be communicating with other members of the X-Men. I would love to introduce myself and speak with you, but it seems my presence has attracted a few flies. Magneto replies as he can hear Charles and Storm's conversation. Their earpieces have some metal in them, so Eric could easily listen in. Charles could probably use telepathy instead of earpieces, but the X-Men are most likely uncomfortable with having him in their heads. Suddenly, a thin blue mist fills a small portion of the area near Charles and Storm, and two very recognizable individuals appear. The first person was hard not to look at, as his indigo-colored velvety fur, blue skin, two-toed feet, three-fingered hands, yellow eyes, pointed ears, and prehensile tail was truly shocking at first glance. Insert picture of Nightcrawler here. Nightcrawler possesses superhuman agility, the ability to teleport, and adhesive hands and feet. The other person looked exactly like a scruffy-haired and bearded Hugh Jackman. As soon as he appeared alongside the Blue Beast Man, the Hugh Jackman look-alike appeared to be disoriented and off balance, as three metal claws extended out from between his knuckles. Insert picture of Wolverine here. Wolverine is a mutant who possesses animal keen senses, enhanced physical capabilities, a powerful regenerative ability known as a healing factor, and three retractable claws in each hand. Wolverine, and Peter couldn't recall the Blue Man's name. Kurt, I specifically said not to bring Logan. Charles admonished with a tired sigh. He wouldn't let go. Nightcrawler answers, giving an annoyed look toward Wolverine. There's no way I'm sitting on the sidelines, Logan says as he sends a death glare toward Magneto while growling. This F-times care sent me flying for miles last time. I need some good old-fashioned revenge. Every normal person in the room watched this play out without a clue as to what was going on. First, an intruder with superpowers breaks in, and now two beast-like people somehow appear out of nowhere. This is the most confusing and scary situation all of them have ever been in. I would appreciate it if you kept your revenge for another day. Peter speaks up, drawing attention towards himself. I'm trying to have a conversation with Eric here. That is your name, right? Yes, but some call me Magneto, Eric replies, sending a taunting smirk in the X-Men's direction. Listen here, bub. Logan looks to Spider-Man as he points an accusing claw toward Magneto. I don't know who you are, but this doesn't concern you. Stay out of it. How do you not know Spider-Man? Kurt mutters in shock. Logan swiftly ignores Spider-Man's words and launches himself toward Magneto, who was still floating mid-air with an infuriating smile plastered all over his face. Sigh, you brought this on yourself, Peter muttered as he shot a web at Logan's back. Huh? Wolverine grunts in surprise as Peter yanks the web, pulling Logan back and smashing him into the ground, breaking through to the floor below. Asterisk bang.